What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about Marauders #1 by Steve Orlando and Eleonora Carlini. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly why Jean Grey giving Cassandra Nova empathy backfired tremendously, and why she's been given amnesty as opposed to exile or death despite her crimes against mutant kind, and last but not least, why the Shi'ar Empire are about to become public enemy #1 for all mutants. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream the Blerd Cave every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So hit that bell button. That way you don't miss anything. With that out of the way, let's talk about Marauders #1.
Can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
First things first I want to jump into is what is going on with Cassandra Nova. We learned a ways back that Cassandra Nova was going to be joining the Marauders in some of the earlier solicits, but it was never really made clear exactly what she was going to have to do with the team, and more importantly, why was she allowed to roam free, breathing Krakoa's fresh air. For those who are not familiar with the character of Cassandra Nova, we have talked about her in the past, but it's been a while, so I'll reiterate some things. First things first you need to know about Cassandra Nova is that she is, for all intents and purposes, the twin sister of Charles Xavier, whom he had murdered while they were still in their mother's womb. Now that I've said that, she is actually not really Charles Xavier's sister. You see, she is what is called a Marauders. It's actually broken down in this issue for the first time in a long time, but way back when she was introduced in New X-Men #114 back in 2001, this character was later revealed to be what we just called her, a Marauders. This is a type of parasitic organism that the Shi'ar are incredibly familiar with, and what they do is they steal the DNA of another living organism and, for all intents and purposes, try to mimic that creature's life, hence why Cassandra Nova is treated as though she's Xavier's twin sister. She mimicked Xavier's DNA while they were in the womb, and that became an entirely new organism, complete with pretty much all the same abilities that Charles Xavier has as a mutant. But just as Charles Xavier has a tendency towards benevolence, Cassandra Nova has a tendency towards malevolence. Cassandra Nova's biggest claim to fame is that she famously wiped out over 16 million mutants on Genosha. She orchestrated that entire Genosian massacre. This is something that should make her persona non grata on Krakoa, no differently than how Krakoa treated Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, for the events of the Decimation, or as the story arc was called, House of M, where she basically depowered what few mutants remained after what Cassandra Nova did. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, this woman should not be allowed on Krakoa, but once again, Krakoa is about second chances. The other thing that also makes this kind of weird too, her being given a second chance on Krakoa, is that even though she is technically, Xavier's quotey fingers twin sister, she's actually not really a true mutant. This is something that's addressed in this issue when it's revealed that Dr. Cecilia Reyes, as well as Dr. Nemesis and Mr. Sinister, are debating what to do with her and why they should do whatever it is that they're going to do with her. Cassandra Nova is in a lot of ways very similar to Mr. Sinister. Sinister is a character who was born a human, but he would later steal his mutant X gene from Thunderbird, thus making himself a mutant. He is not a mutant in the purest sense, and neither is Cassandra Nova. And of course, they do go back and forth about how when Sinister stole someone else's X gene to make himself into a mutant, he did it maliciously, whereas Cassandra Nova did it instinctively. This wasn't something she did to be evil. It just kind of so happened that she turned into an evil son bitch once she was born, or rather after Charles had killed her, and then she would later reconstitute herself. But ever since the events of X-Men Red #11 in 2019, Jean Grey's X-Men team, the aforementioned X-Men Red, pulled a sneak attack trick attack against Cassandra Nova and placed a reprogrammed nanite sentinel within Cassandra Nova's mind. Jean Grey did this because she said that the first time that she ever reached into Cassandra Nova's mind, she felt like something was missing, that there was just a piece of her that other people have that she didn't. And pretty much what that thing was empathy. Instead of feeling those malicious feelings that she would always feel when she thought about mutants, now she will feel empathy towards them. And then Cassandra Nova just kind of disappeared from off the face of the earth. After the revelation that she would actually now feel guilt and empathy for all the terrible things that she's done, and of course after being shown mercy by Jean Grey, a lot of people rightfully thought that maybe the next time we would see Cassandra Nova, she would be a changed person. It's actually not the case. When we're reintroduced to Cassandra Nova in Marauders #1, it's revealed that she's actually taken Jean Grey's gift of empathy and tainted it. She's actually been committing a great sin on Krakoa, something that I'm surprised has not gotten her thrown in the hole alongside Sabretooth, considering all the things that we've recently learned in the pages of Sabretooth about what crimes against Krakoa could wind up getting you thrown in the pit. Melter was recently thrown in the pit for burning Krakoa while he was practicing using his mutant powers. Well, Cassandra Nova should be right next to him because she's been digging into Krakoa, and she's discovered that if you dig deep enough, you'll actually find the organs of Krakoa. She's been digging those organs up and using them to make her feel. And the guilt and pain and anguish that Jean Grey had intended for her to feel whenever she did something terrible or harmful towards mutants, she doesn't feel that. Well, she does, but she enjoys it. She loves it. She loves inflicting pain on other people. And while she says that she enjoys this feeling more than anything she ever felt when she felt nothing at all, she does reveal that mutants no longer have anything to fear from her. That she has dropped her vendetta against mutants, and now she's more than happy to become a part of Kate Pryde's Marauders. Now, the reason why she is being reached out to for this is because during the recent issue of Marauders Annual #1, Kate Pryde was given a puzzle box, one made of Mysterium that seemingly was over 2 billion years old. This puzzle box was intended as a gift for Kate Pryde, which makes this even crazier because this box, which is made of a material that didn't exist until very recently and is somehow over 2 billion years old, has her name on it, and this box had a map within it that led her to Cassandra Nova in the secret place that she's been held in on Krakoa. Cassandra Nova knows something. She knows a great deal about some of the things that are about to come to pass. These all seem to be future events that she's aware of that no one else is. For whatever it is, this box points to something that is repeatedly referred to as the First Blood spilled. This all leads back to Okara, a time back when Krakoa and Arakko were one singular land. The thing she's referring to about the First Blood spilled is later brought up when it's revealed that this ties directly to the Shi'ar Empire. The Shi'ar Empire seems to be withholding the First Blood spilled, and what this is in reference to is the first generation of mutants that existed on Okara. The Shi'ar Empire have them imprisoned. This part of the information is revealed to us by Delphos, who apparently was a sleeper agent of the organization, the Kin Crimson. And if this character bears any resemblance, it might remind you of a character like, I don't know, Eric the Red, who was one of the characters we saw a lot of back during the Phoenix Saga. Well, that is by design. He, too, is a part of the Kin Crimson. The Kin Crimson's entire point is to protect the Shi'ar Empire, even beyond the normal means of the Empress herself. Whatever it is that these first mutants represent, this is something that is, by Delphos's recollection, something that would be dangerous not just to Xandra and her throne, but also to everyone. Something so dangerous that even Xandra, who has no desire whatsoever to go to war with Arakko or go to war with the X-Men for that matter, even as reluctant as Xandra is to give Eric the Red and Delphos full carte blanche to deal with the Marauders in any way that they see fit, just to avoid open war with all of mutant kind. She doesn't want to do this, but she's going to allow them to destroy the Marauders, or let's be real here, attempt to destroy the Marauders, just to prevent the X-Men and Planet Arakko from finding out about what the Shi'ar had done, even if it was centuries, if not millennia ago. The Shi'ar Empire have somehow kept those specific mutants in some form of a stasis, imprisoned away where they can apparently do no harm. And since the Marauders' mission statement is to go not where they're wanted but where they're needed to help rescue their mutant brothers and sisters, this is in direct opposition with the Shi'ar Empire in its current state. Whoever or whatever these mutants are, it's hard to say at this point, but since these mutants seem to date back to Okara and we likely would not have seen them anytime between now and then, something tells me these are going to be all new characters. I don't think this is Apocalypse or Genesis or any of his children. I think these are mutants that predate those specific mutants. Something tells me we could very easily be introduced to Apocalypse's father of all things. You never know. There's a lot that could potentially happen here. We know that the mutants from Okara were of a completely different stock, if it is anything to be believed by what we've gotten from the mutants on planet Araco. They are more deadly and dangerous than most mutants that we have seen from the Krakoan side of things, and even mutants that we've seen even pre-House of X. So it's easy to believe that if Apocalypse and Genesis are so powerful, as well as even their offspring, the original recipe for Horsemen of the Apocalypse, it stands to reason that these individual mutants are definitely powerful enough that it would warrant the Shi'ar Empire being terrified of them getting released. Either way, getting back to the Cassandra Nova side of things, I like that she's been introduced to the team because, she's the outlier. Everybody else is, for the most part, a, fairly straightforward character being added on. Characters like Tempo, Somnus, Aurora, Dakin, Quanin, who has been operating as Psylocke since after the events of House of X, as well as Bishop and Kate Pride. All these characters are pretty fairly straightforward. However, Cassandra Nova is definitely the one that pretty much no one wants on the team, maybe with the exception of Somnus, who doesn't really know anything about Cassandra Nova because at the time they weren't alive. Even Quanin has to recognize that Cassandra Nova is not lying about anything that she's telling them, even guiding Quanin's psychic knife into her own mind just to prove a point. But that doesn't mean Cassandra Nova should be 100% trusted. Some have to remember that even Kate Pride has reason to take issue with Cassandra Nova even being within her presence, considering that Cassandra Nova is responsible for the death of Kate Pride's father, because he was one of the many people who died on Genosha. Now, he wasn't a mutant, he was a human, a normal human, but he was on Genosha when the massacre took place, and he died risking his life trying to save the mutants being massacred by those wild sentinels Cassandra had unleashed. She knows more than she's actually telling anybody, and I'm pretty sure that by the time all the smoke is cleared, we will quickly learn Cassandra Nova has set all of this up to get whatever it is that she wants. But anyway, those are just some musings I had about Marauders #1 by Steve Orlando and Eleonora Carlini. This book was actually pretty cool. I will say, I don't normally harp about art in books, but it did take me a minute to get used to the art in this book. Not because it was bad, but just because there were certain points where certain characters were drawn in ways that, I don't know, I just wasn't particularly crazy about. But either way, I actually did end up, by the time I got to the end of the book, I was actually quite okay with it. I normally don't harp about art in comic books unless it's just particularly bad. I'm not saying this is particularly bad. It reminds me more of something I would likely see in a manga. And it's actually a pretty interesting hybrid style that is quickly growing on me. It just took me a moment to get used to. The story is a whole other story. I was into the story almost immediately from the jump. We're getting more character development out of characters we don't get to really see a lot of, especially as of late. Tempo especially, and of course, new character Somnus is also getting some interesting panel time as well. And I'm liking the dynamic that Bishop and Kate Pride are operating under now. Not that they weren't necessarily operating under this dynamic prior to Steve Orlando coming on, but I like that Bishop is being more open about how he feels about some of Kate's decisions. Either way, I can't wait to see how this all plays out, and let me know what you guys thought about Marauders #1. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.